My name is Dr. Rick Saguil.
And action. Hey, Jay, this is Kirk.
And action. Hey everyone, it's Dr. Rick. So a consult earlier today with John brought up a good point. And John's question was, what he did, was it healthy or was it the right decision? And what he did was he was given blood pressure medicines for a difficult blood pressure that he couldn't figure out how to control, and finally tapped out and got some medicines from his doctor. The medicines did work well, but John took it upon himself to wean himself off the medicines, but also adapt a healthy lifestyle. Now he lost like 15 to 20 pounds, which was fantastic compared to the average American. And I don't want to compare John to the average because it's not fair. However, that just tells you how hard it is to make lifestyle change. But he was able to do that, contrive a routine, maintain the routine, even through COVID, and come out ahead. The bro science, it's called bro science. So those of you who haven't heard that, back in the late 90s and early millennium, popularity ruled. So if you had a very good following and you were able to get people to lose weight, or get shredded, or get people off their medicines with taking a bunch of herbs or following a nutrition practice, you generated some attention. And with the attention, and the beginning of social media, you could see a big following. The non-MDs, the non-PhDs way back when, they might have had a nutrition degree, or they might have had a personal training degree, or some story that was really cool that they lost 1,000 pounds. But they definitely had a knack for doing something that worked with the majority of people that follow them. So there's a lot to say about those things. So those bros that were making a dent in civilization, in 10 years to 20 years, a couple of them went on to become PhDs. So the data that they carried with them actually is very impactful. The data that are coming out can't argue against it. For example, egg, keto, meat, carnivore, cholesterol. So a lot of these things, because of the bro science guys becoming scientists, actually have been challenged. And that's good, because I think challenge will bring out a better person or a better community if it's done properly. So it has got some teeth to it, the data now. So I gave John a thumbs up saying that what he did was proper. Now, that doesn't mean it always works, so I have to give a disclaimer that none of my videos are meant to be a substitute for medical advice, so please take the data that you get, or the questions, and bring them to your doctor and see if it pertains to you. And if your doctor can't answer, you might have to give him some information, and if he still can't answer, or just poo-poos it, or something in your heart says, he doesn't know what he's talking about, get yourself a new doctor. Might be worth it. Go within your medical insurance. Or you can always see me, Herbal 411. I'll put my website down below. I do internet consults, and I can give you an hour to an hour and a half of time. I do integrated medicine, so I see a lot of chronic issues. But I really think that if the data is presented and put into a timeline, a template can be extracted from that timeline, because you can reverse engineer back to where the cause or the beginning of the problem was, and just kind of extrapolate from there, find an answer, and then you have direction. But what I wanted to do the video for was not to necessarily give you guys a thumbs up to do anything you want, but sometimes the doctors aren't meaning to brush you off or say that doesn't work, but there's a pressure that's felt to the doctors that controls the way you think. And maybe you'll understand when I'm finished with this, but there are some good doctors and there are some bad doctors. Most doctors across the board are pretty decent, because you have to jump through a lot of hoops, especially in the States. Every state has its board certification, and some states are tougher than others. Once you pass through those hoops and you get into medical practice, you have to, if you follow the paradigm of what doctors do, you have to bill medical insurance, because everybody in the United States has medical insurance. There's a couple of different medical insurances, and that won't change in the United States because they're making a ton of money. To be paid, you have to satisfy the billing. And when I worked for people, there was a department that submitted bills for all their doctors. And you have to put the right code on the bill to get reimbursed from the insurance company for the services that were provided. Now, the problem is who decides how much value gets put into each diagnosis or the service. Because if one person sees high blood pressure, John's doctor, and then I can reverse his high blood pressure, but we still have to bill the same thing. We saw him for blood pressure. Who should get reimbursed more? And I'm not saying that I want more money, but it takes a lot of time to figure out a person and reverse high blood pressure. It doesn't take much time to just give a diagnosis and then say, take the medicine, it's good for you. So, but yet we get paid the same. And under the guise of an employer, they're saying, well, you might have reversed the disease, but you saw the same as Dr. X, so it won't be rewarded. In fact, you get penalized. So let me explain. The way doctors usually get reimbursed, especially if you're an employee, is by something called an RVU, relative value unit. And that's what Medicare came up with. I don't remember when. Again, to try to justify how much they would pay for certain services, surgical services or non-surgical services, or hospital services versus outpatient services. There's so many things, but if Medicare is going to start paying for all these doctors, they're not just going to write a lump sum. They want to see what they're paying for. So already you have to pigeonhole the things that you do to a diagnosis, a code. And oftentimes, if you just see somebody for a sore throat, that's a piece of cake. If you just deliver a baby and there's no complication, that's kind of a piece of cake. If you just take a gallbladder out, that's kind of a piece of cake. But no one ever just has a sore throat. Usually I'll find other things that lead to the sore throat: tobacco, kissing an infected partner, not having good hygiene. So, but I can't bill for that because I don't have time to see more than a sore throat. Delivering a baby, there could be high blood pressure in the mom. There could have been a problem with a cord wrapped around the baby's neck. There could have been meconium. There could have been prolonged labor. There could have been rupture. So there's a lot of other things that go with delivering a baby. Taking a gallbladder out, there might be complications post-op. There might be a problem with a pancreatitis. There might be a diabetes issue on top of that that has to be kind of fine-tuned. So you can certainly put more labels to what you see, but somebody that's not a doctor is going to take those labels and say, nah, it doesn't go. We just pay you for number one. Lazy doctors, they'll say, I'm not going to get paid more. I'm just going to go as little as possible, move on to the next patient. So already this gives you a mentality of assembly line, because if the reimbursement is this much, and even if you spend this much time, you don't get reimbursed, the average business is going to want to say, just spend this much time, unless you have some value in satisfying people. And that's where the next thing came about, patient satisfaction scores. So there's a little bit, if you have a salary and you work for somebody, there's a little bit of incentive given to you to turn over patient satisfaction scores, meaning that random satisfaction score surveys are sent to random patients in your practice. And if you get all of them back, they will hopefully all be good. And if you get a thumbs up, there's a little bonus for you at the end. It's worked into the formula, it's legal. But the problem is, how many of you guys answer surveys? You get a survey online because you just went to Amazon. You get a survey from the guy who just changed your tires. You get a survey from the restaurant. The majority of people who are happy with service, they don't really fill out the survey. Who fills out the survey? Angry people, because they figure, I'm going to get this guy back now, right? So that's kind of front-loaded to be false. It doesn't give you a clear perspective. It was a formula that was developed by the government to make sure that these doctors were treating patients with respect. Knowing human behavior, it's already biased. So there's going to be some user bias. You have to interpret that. Then unless you can get everybody you see at the end of the visit to say, hey, when you get a survey, give me 5 stars. That sounds like you're a salesman. So your care should speak for itself, but there's a problem with that, especially when you're told to speed up your care. Then your care is like that was a terrible visit. So I'll explain it in a second. Is MGMA, and that was made, I believe, to help doctors. I don't know where it was founded, but it was made so that doctors can be in control of the billing and the way the government pays. But I feel is used against most doctors, meaning that everybody has to practice the same. For doctors that are practicing a little below the standard, they're going to have to pick it up. But the same, which is good for the community, But for doctors that excel with what they're doing, you might bring them down, which might be a problem. That's the way medicine and discoveries advance, is when you have these guys, the few of them, accelerate. That's when you're given the reins to control your own destiny and find innovative techniques, medicines, therapies, that, like the bros did way back in the 90s and millennium. The outliers, the best of the best, were the ones who propelled health outside of healthcare to be so impactful. So if we bring down the best doctors and make everybody the same, it might be better for a hospital, but I think in the end, you're going to really rob ingenious people, because the ones that are being told to pick up the pace, I think they're going to learn to just get by. The ones that are in the middle, they're going to know, I'm not going to be able to progress upward. Why do I have to go any further and harder or faster? So maybe I'm being very cynical, but I'm allowed to. So this is all personal observation. Now, there's all these reviews that are online. So, and I've seen how reviews can be doctored. So, I mean, even studies can be fudged and reviews can be doctored. You know, as I was fixing, it took me like 2 weeks to fix all my listings as far as Dr. Rick Saguil, Hoffman Estates, Dr. Rick Saguil, Endorphin Effect. I'm not at 1054 Norwood Lane anymore with Advocate, but it's taken me forever because I have to prove that I'm out of the Advocate community. And so, but I'm finally getting everything to say Hoffman Estates with my training center in Bartlett. So I practice in Hoffman Estates, integrative medicine, whether it's in person or via internet consult. Then I offer to take, after I come up with a diagnosis, treatment plan, and a way out of suffering, I offer to take some patients to the training center and Endorphin Effect to actually implement lifestyle change. So it is finally working to my advantage. I still got a lot of hoops to jump through, but for 25 years, I've always worked for somebody because it was the easy way out, the lazy medicine. But I'm learning the business, and it's painful. I think I have a lot to offer and teach younger people, but let me just explain why I'm presenting this. Because I like the way John did his thing. I applaud him for that. And I notice a lot of other patients will do that, but they only tell me because I enforce that. There's the patient aspect and there's the administration aspect, especially if you work for somebody. Now, orthopedic surgeons, plastic surgeons, they don't work for anybody. They have nobody else to answer to except for themselves. And they're usually the richest in the world of medicine. But I want to make impact on my community, write a book. I want to find another way to see and congratulate people that work on lifestyle change on their own. So that's sustainable. I honor that. Those are my warriors. But I was trying to reflect back, and I had 3 events in life that moved me away from medicine. The first time I had a ton of patients after a decade of a lot of good success. I was just beginning my practice and tailoring my practice, mostly sports medicine, but also a little bit of acupuncture, Eastern medicine application. But when the new CEO came in, he said, well, wait a minute. You're not keeping up with MGMA, so your average compared to the MGMA average is lower. So we don't have to pay you this much. So I left. I moved to Florida. And then the second time I moved away from medicine, I was getting a lot of positive reviews from patients and having some really good interaction with patients. I could see that they were listening, and that little spark that I gave them, even though it might have been fleeting, the spark, I hope, propelled them on to make lifestyle changes. The doctors that I was working with were saying, hey, you're taking a long time with these guys. Come on, speed it up. So what I do, I changed my practice. I started speeding up. And when I sped up, patients gave me a negative review. And when I got the negative review and it was vocal, then administration said, you're out of here. It's a shame. I changed for the doctors, and if I stayed with the original, I wish I should have stuck to my guns because I knew it was the right way. I'd probably still be in the job. The third time was, I got a ton of reviews, accelerated even better than these 2 events, ton of positive reviews. And I got positive props from administration. But because of that architecture of how we get paid, I got positive props, but you can do what you're doing a good job, but we'll have to kind of dock your pay. So it's almost like this. I still got positive reviews, but a couple of negatives because that bottom floor was hurting me, feeding my kids and putting my kids through schooling. That was hurting me, so I had to speed it up again, just like this. So when I sped it up, not all the time, but when I sped it up, I got some bad reviews with some patients, especially sometimes there's a once a month review, and after that review, it's like, shit, I'm really underperforming. I better speed it up. I would usually make my visits shorter, and I'd also be very abrupt with some patients. I'm sorry if those were some of you guys, but I started getting a couple of negative reviews. The majority that I knew, they knew I would do a good job and I would spend the time. Anybody new, I sometimes would cut them short, and I apologize, but I was getting gypped. So then I got negatives, and when I got the negatives, when I started to have a little negatives come into play, and then I got administration to say, okay, you're not doing well. Either pick it up or pack it up. So I realized that that's not for me. And I'm not saying anything against the places I worked at. They're serving the community properly. They're doing great. They're too big to fail. So, but the little guys like me, especially, I'm trying to negotiate my way through hospitals and insurance companies. And if it's just me, it's like my voice is like a little fish in a pond. I can't tell you, for 3 months, I've been trying as much as possible, and I always end up in a dead end as far as getting on staff or getting insurance companies to say, acknowledge who I am. But that's okay. I'll find my way. And I know, this is 25 years now, I know what I'm doing is proper. I know that I have a good technique. I know how to assess. And my patients, the patients know, that have been to me, know my technique, put them on the path to change. Now, with my abrupt leaving recently, I got some negatives, and I apologize about that, but there's only so much a human and a dad and a doctor can tolerate. And again, I have no grudges, but this direction I'm going will probably not sustain me economically because I'll have to get another job, but I know it's the right thing to do, and too many other people are suffering, so I have to do it. If I'm the only voice out there, fine. But according to the Arizona Center for Integrative Medicine, the AZCIM, where I did my Integrative Medicine Fellowship, there's 22 of us in Illinois that do the same thing. So that's good. And I hope you support that. I'll put that down below, because if you can't see me, the other doctors that have practiced integrative medicine or did the 2-year fellowship, they might be able to see it. So check it out. Follow the links, put Illinois and put search, and you'll see the other 21 doctors that also practice like me. But please, if you change your lifestyle, seek out a lifestyle coach, do your own research. PubMed, National Institute of Health, is online. Very influential people who have made waves and had good results. I think that's fair. You just have to learn how to sift through the dumb bros and the intelligent bros. And I mean PhDs now, obviously. So there's a lot of them that are out there from respectable universities. So just be aware of that. Open that possibility or that window up. And once you get really good at that, and you have a good doctor that listens to you, protects you, I think you're built for success. You'll actually stop the suffering. You have a great health span to match the lifespan. That's cool. Independence. I plan on hiking forever into my 80s and seeing my great-great-grandkids. My parents left, what I think, early, and it's a shame because my son doesn't even remember my mom. I'm not asking for a reward. I'm just asking for it to be fair. And I'm also asking you guys to be aware and empower yourselves with knowledge on your own. As I evolve with learning the business part of this, it's really spooky and it's saddening, but you'll be fine. If you can't see me, that's okay, but try to see my other friends, or at least challenge your doctors. That's how I learned. As long as I survive the next couple months, I'll be fine. 2020 has been really tough, but it's a course change. So I think it's telling a lot of us, you got to pick up the pieces and live healthy. Otherwise, don't forget, subscribe, hit the alert button, maybe a like, and I'll see you at the next video.